All right, everyone, welcome to the eighth panel in the first ever College Improv Conference. We're so excited to have you here. Your panelists and your moderator are joining us now for the wonderful panel conversation. Wait, are long form and short form the same exact thing? We're going to find out today over the next 1 hour. John Branch is going to lead the discussion, and we'll know for certain if these two art forms are in fact the same thing. Without further ado, let me introduce your moderator for this afternoon's conversation, John Branch.
Hey, everybody watching. How's it going? I know you can't respond, but I'm happy you're here. My name is John Branch. I'm going to be your moderator for today. And we are talking about, wait, are short form and long form different or the same? What's going on with the short form and long form wackiness? And we have an awesome panel here to talk about it. So let's go ahead and introduce our panel today. All right, come on in here, everybody. Great.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I guess I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Cole McGuire. I am the president of First Time Offenders Improv out of Trinity University. Excited to be here.
Great, thanks. Macy, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself next?
Yeah, I'm Macy Fletcher. I'm the co-president of Black Sheep Improv at Ohio University, and I am in Cleveland, Ohio, in my grandparents' apartment right now.
Is Ohio University different than the Ohio State University?
It is. We're in
Okay.
Athens.
Good. We can be friends then.
Okay.
That's fine. Ori, go ahead and tell us about yourself.
Hi, my name is Orolua Onosanya. I am a member of the performance troupe of IMPROV LSU. We can't say LSU Improv because they will sue us if we put the name before Improv. And yeah, I am in my cousin's house in Baton Rouge right now, wearing a shirt from the Baton Rouge Improv Festival.
Oh, I forgot we were gonna introduce ourselves with what we were wearing, but we forgot to do that. We'll do that at the end. That'll be the outro. And Cosmos, if you want to let us know who you are.
My name's Cosmos. I'm the co-president of Absolute Improv Comedy here at Boston. I'm in Indiana right now. I'm wearing an ATO Rush shirt. It's a fraternity that I'm in.
ATL Rush. I thought you were rushing the city of Atlanta.
No.
That would be great.
Awesome.
Great. Alpha Tau Lambda, right?
Oh wait, no, ATO. Yeah,
ATO.
Alpha Tau Omega. Yeah.
All right, there it is. All right. Well, so the first thing I want to do to get us started off with this is talk about actually what is short form and long form to us, right? We all live in different places. We all have different experiences. We all have different traditions and different people that came before us that taught us how to do improv. So how do you define short form? And let's just say, how do you define short form? First of all, when you're teaching short form and talking about short form. Cole, do you want to kick us off with this?
Sure. I'd say for us, short form is primarily game-based. You're going to get a bunch of rules about how the scene is going to work, and it shouldn't last more than 10 minutes. That might be an oversimplification, but it's useful starting out.
I like that there's a time allotment. No short form games should be longer than 10 minutes. Because that's really the difference between short form and long form is how long your set is, apparently. I love it. Macy, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, we have a pretty similar definition of short form. It's like mostly we just do games and use them. Like, I think they all each have like a specific skill they're targeting or a couple. So we use them mostly as like a learning tool or sometimes in shows.
I love it. Ori, you want to let us know your
thoughts?
thoughts on
Yeah,
short
I'll
form?
just say like short form is a form of it's like forms of improv where like the story isn't like paramount to how the form works. Like you can have stories and like callbacks and like different scenes, but like in short form, like it's more about like that particular scene and everything. That scene is like contained in itself and like doesn't really extend past that specific scene unless you want it to. But like that's not compulsory for how it works. That's just like a choice thing. If you want to like give the audience a taste of like, oh, like hey, remember this thing, a callback.
Okay. And Cosmos, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I would say it's a little bit of everything you guys said. When we do it, it's basically like each game has a rule, and you're more focused on making sure that you like play to the strength of that rule. So each gimmick is pretty much where the fun is going to come from. You're not really too focused on what's going on in the scene. You're more focused on like getting the scene to work within the rules of the game.
Great. Let's go back the other way and talk about long form. So Cosmos, when you think about long form and you talk about long form, when you're explaining long form to improvisers, how do you explain it?
So I basically say it's like a short form game, but without the rules. So basically, it's a lot longer and you don't have as many restrictions. You just start by building, if you want to build a town, build a space, or you just get one word, and then you just build your characters from there. It's more character based than the relationships than it is, about the gimmick of the game.
Great. Ori, your thoughts on long form?
Back the story out to like long form is just like where like the story is like what is valued the most. It's more like not it's more like narrative based than just like oh like this is the game or stuff like that. Like I guess it relies less on how do I put this? Because I wouldn't say rewarding the audience because I feel like you reward the audience regardless. But like well at least how we do like short forms is like people tend to go towards comedy more in like short form like haha laugh comedy basically instead of like a like story where it's like oh like this might be funny which is like what like long form does more. Like we have like structured long forms at times, but like I would honestly say for us like long form has like more rules, but like that's just how we do it.
Okay, awesome. I like it. Macy, your thoughts on long form?
Yeah, I think it to me it feels more structured than short form, I guess, because you have like specific beats you have to hit the whole time instead of just one rule you have to keep in mind. There's definitely more of a time freedom, and you can get, I think, a little deeper into your creativity, but you also have to be. It's like you need razor focus because you have to make sure that everything goes together. Whereas in short form, it doesn't have to connect every time. So
And Cole, your thoughts on long form?
Longer than 10 minutes. Back to the oversimplification.
All right, done. That's it. Just longer than 10 minutes. Got it.
Yeah, I mean, well, typically when we do long form, it's going to be a bit less structured than the short form games. You can also do a short form game for 20 minutes and just extend it out, and I would also consider that long form.
I got it. So this is something we didn't talk about before, but I want to throw it in here. Medium form. Is there such thing? Is it a myth? Is this a thing people make up to make people feel more comfortable with long form? Have you heard the term medium form and how do you feel about it? Anybody?
Wow. I haven't heard that term before, but
Interesting.
if I were to describe anything as medium form, I would say it's like a short form game that goes on for maybe like 5 to 7 or maybe 7 minutes, like in that range. Because we have some games that are a lot longer, but they're a short form game. And then we have some games that are just real quick. So medium form, I'd probably say it's just a little longer, but not quite as long as a long form.
I like it. It's another time-based answer.
Yeah.
How long this thing is really going to decide what it is, which I totally get. Anybody else? Medium
Yeah,
form.
I'd say like a medium form would be like what I would call a show where like we're opening for someone and we're getting like 20 minutes or 30 minutes and we just do one short form, but like keep extending it for that long. But like
Oh,
I like that just sounds like such a strange term to me, like medium form. It just doesn't feel right.
So
yeah. Go ahead.
medium form is exactly 10 minutes. But I've never heard someone refer to medium form, and I actually don't think I like it. I think it's kind of making
Yeah.
it sound like long form is really hard, and you gotta build up to it with medium form before you can get to long form.
Yeah, no.
Interesting. No, and that's fun. Nobody's heard the term medium form.
yeah.
I've heard this word a lot. So that's great. And Macy, anything you want to add? Thoughts on
Um,
medium form?
I feel like maybe it is just cutting out an element of long form. We've done like a Herald in the Dark. So,
Oh.
but I
Oh,
mean,
dark.
I don't that wouldn't read to an audience, I guess. I don't know. I've never heard of that, and I guess I'm open to hearing about it.
It was two questions really quick. Was the Herald in the Dark did you turn off the lights and then walk around on stage, or was it like Or was it a bat where everybody just sat down and you turned off
Oh, no,
and you just talked it?
we were all horizontal on the ground, so with the
Oh,
lights off.
So you
Yeah.
all just laid down on the ground, turned the lights off, and then talked to Harold out loud.
Yeah, and there was some whispering involved, so
I love it. It sounds so relaxing.
yeah.
Just I'm gonna take a nap and I'm gonna just bang out a quick set. It'll be great.
Yeah, right.
like it reminds me of like something called soundscape, where like everyone just like closes their eyes and sits in a circle, and like someone just starts making a noise, and like everyone else starts like creating an atmosphere by just like making noises. And, like occasionally, like you might have like a scene develop, but like everyone's eyes are still closed. Where it's like, oh, like we had one recently where it was like we were at like a fair, and then like some guy was trying to like win the basketball game and he kept failing, but like everyone else was just like making like sounds to like create like texture basically, like so like it feels like you're actually at a fair rather than just like in a room where like, oh, this guy just happens to be shooting an invisible basketball.
I like it. That's cool. So, it's a perfect introduction to kind of the first thing I wanted to talk about. Um, with short form is where I figured we'll start. What are some of the games that you play in short form, uh, that you think, like audiences as well as like the players enjoy? Do you have any favorite games? I'll start back at the top. Cole, do you have any favorites?
Yeah, so I think our troop has two really heavy hitters that we love. We have pan left, pan right. Some people call it Foursquare. We have
Yeah,
four different
also.
scenes on each
Mhm.
side. You can pan between them. That's always a big hit. And also, we call it Let's Make a Date or the dating game, which is a guessing game. Those are always winners with the audience.
Is there a time for those? What's the time limit for those, you think?
Ooh, we give recommendations of like pan left, pan right should maybe between like 6 to 8 minutes. Same thing with let's make a date. And we have show hosts that might try to cut it off. It's going a bit long, but we've had those go to like 12 minutes and we're like, oh, this is going well. Just keep it flowing.
If it's funny, keep going. I like it. Macy, your thoughts.
My favorite game is Gibberish, where like there's two people in the middle that are speaking gibberish and then translators outside of them. Because it's like you can play on the sounds they're making and like contrast the translator's response with what they're saying, and that's super fun. I always like race to sign up for that one if we're doing that in a game show. And we also play You're Fired always in game shows, which is like there's a boss and you have to explain someone's late, and then the workers that are there have to go mime the reason why the person's late after they already explained it to the boss, and then the boss decides if they're fired or not. A bunch of like, I think our games are pretty physical and like more fun, and yeah.
I like it. That's a really fun game where you combine the fantastic game of charades with a short form improv. It's always a hit. I love it.
Yeah.
Ori, any
Uh, yeah.
favorites short form games?
So in terms of like the audience, the one we usually do our shows is just a thing wipe, where it's just like you do stuff, and then like if you're doing a scene and like you make a choice, like there might be someone who can like tell you to ding that choice and like make a different choice. Or if they want you to
Okay.
just ding tone, they might be like, oh, ding tone. If it's like, oh, I gave him my bottle, they're like, ding object you gave him, ding this. And that's the one we usually do our shows, which is like usually funny because like we usually use it to like build on the rule of thirds. So it's like you can say two things that are similar, and the third one has to be out of left field if it goes that long. And that usually like makes people laugh. But like I guess like one of my personal favorites for like when we have like rehearsals is I can't remember what it's called, but like there's one where like so one person has only one line, one person has two lines, one person has three lines. And like the entire scene, oh well no, one person has one line, one person has two lines, and then one person can say anything. And so like it becomes a thing of like using the person who has one line as like a button for honestly, like it's a cheap laugh, but like it just works every time. Like you just have one person say only one thing every single time. So it's like someone might be having like a like serious debate and be like, oh, like okay, let's ask this person what they need, and you just see like the dumbest line because that's what you get. Well, that's because that's what you were given at the start. Like it just always works.
Yeah, that's a fun one. I like that. Cosmos, any short
This is
form?
really, yeah, this is really cool actually because you guys play a lot of the same games. It's just called different things. I love that. So we call ours four corners, exactly what Cole said, except instead of saying pan right, we just say switch right or switch left, and it's the same thing. Basically, just four people around, and we switch around the scene, and we kind of do it like on a how it feels. So we like to switch it after a big laugh. That way, we have like the flow going. We don't like to switch it when it's like dying or when it's like at the bottom, you want to switch it when it's at the top. So then the next scene feels like fresh. And then we also, two other favorites, my personal favorite, but also an audience favorite, Road Trip. That one's really fun. It's basically four corners except you're in a car and there's no switching, and anything can happen. So you have a destination. Each character kind of has their own personality. You pick it in the scene. We don't tell you a thing. And then you're just going on a road trip. And one person enters at a time, like enters the car at a time. And then basically the whole game. And then my last one, which is my favorite one, it's Funeral. That one is the one I was talking about earlier when I was kind of mentioning medium form because that one runs a little bit long. Basically, one person in the scene is dead, and each person is at the funeral giving a speech about how they knew them, and then we cut to a scene with those two people, and the one person that's dead is in all six scenes, with the last scene being how they died.
Interesting. I like it.
Yeah.
I would say that's close to medium form.
Yeah, I'm gonna write. I'm
Yeah.
going to write that one down to
I
like
like that one.
pitch
Yeah, no,
that
that
to
was
my
fun.
And
team.
I've
Yeah.
and the road trip one, I play that as a taxi, where it's a
Taxi.
taxi driver picking up
Okay.
four people, and then but then when we play it, everybody has to match the new person that comes
Oh,
in.
yeah.
Do you guys do that? Or do you make a match or no?
Yeah. We have one of those too.
Oh,
What do
okay.
we call it? I think we call it,
Uh,
I think that's one of our warm up games. I don't know if we played that in a show before, actually.
Maybe. I've done it.
Yeah.
I've done it as both.
Mhm.
It's really weird and fun.
Yeah. I did it on my audition. I remember that game.
It's a good game.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other like favorites that people wanted to share that they feel like that they just remembered now, maybe?
Oh, I would. So my favorite short form game is one called Protest Song. It's musical improv, where you get the suggestion from the audience on what you want to protest. So it can be it's usually really mundane, like oranges or cows or crunchy cookies. And then you go verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus. Then one chorus, and you try to get the entire audience to sing this improvised song with you. You usually have somebody like strumming a guitar in the back.
I like it. And
Yeah.
you would say that this is short form, right?
We can get it under 10 minutes. So
Under 10
yes.
minutes. It's like
Oh,
because there's very few songs that are over 10 minutes.
Yeah.
We're not doing anything crazy. Go, Ori, did you have something you wanted to
yeah,
add?
we also have one. I think we call it the good, the bad, and the ugly. So it's actually like a panel. So like you have like three people who are like basically like one person is like let's say it's usually a panel on a specific topic. So like we ask for suggestions. So like let's say the topic is like uh production of bottles, and then you have like one person who like is a spokesperson for a company who produces bottles, but like they know everything and like they give good answers. Then you have the bad person who's like just like disagreeing with every single thing the good person sees. And then you have the ugly who's just like someone who says like the most random thing. Like you could ask them, or like what do you think about this bottle? And they could like go on a speech about like how like something else, like something completely out of left field. And it's like we just did that like 3 or 4 times until like we get a big laugh and then it's done.
All right, cool. Cole, do me a favor. Can you tell the audience about your shirt? I just realized my lights are making me look like I'm inside of a TV. It's 1 second.
Yeah. So I have an octopus on my shirt. I am wearing a collared shirt with another collared jacket over it. I'm sorry for everyone to have to make this realization, but an octopus is my favorite animal. So there's your fun fact.
There it is. That's your fun fact break brought to you by Cole. Great. So now I kind of want to transition a little bit more into long form, right? So when we talk about long form, uh, I guess like I'm curious, what forms are people doing now? What's cool? What's in vogue at your schools or in colleges? I'll tell you right now, New York City, everybody's doing the slacker. Everybody's doing the slacker. But yeah, Cole, you want to let us know what are you doing there in What long forms are you guys doing?
Yeah, so we'll always do we used to do some kind of variation on what we call open world, where you just get a suggestion for a scene, and then you do 30 to 45 minutes of connected scenes in this world. Usually try to structure it with some plot. You add some variations in there. Maybe you give a character monologue in the beginning. You can only play that character. Maybe you do a Laurent. But that's kind of the most popular. We also play a few shorter ones. Some people call them like close quarters or pretty flower, to where it's a bit more of a structure, the same open world concept with a few more rules enforced.
Interesting. And so these can go 45 minutes. So you're doing a 45-minute scene.
We've had ones that have hit an hour and 15 minutes before. They're like
Wow.
movies at times.
I love it. Just so you know that the standard indie set here in New York is 15 minutes. So for a long form set.
Wow.
Macy, you want to let us know what are you doing? What kind of long form you guys doing?
We're at like an hour and a half, so we might have to cut down our time. Our shows are like an hour and a half, which is good. Not this. Sorry. Yeah, we do heralds pretty much. Like we do show every other week, and it's usually a herald. And then we've done like we do a choose your own adventure show, and we did a trial. We did a funeral, which we made long form. I guess we just made it longer. Yeah, we like open it so we can make new forms, but I guess like our pretty traditional type is a herald.
I love it. The Herald is amazing. It's my favorite. I got multiple Herald teams. I love it. Ori, what about you? What are you doing?
The main form we do is like an improv LSU original. It's called Step Up Story. So how the form works is basically there's like three like separately running storylines where there's like a one, a two, and a three, and all three scenes have an ABC scene. So like they have one scene, one scene, one scene, one scene. Then everyone does another scene. Then everyone does another scene. So like every like story has three scenes, and then at the end all of them have to connect. But like they get their suggestions based off like four stories told by like four people who are like in the team. So like usually we do these with like eight people. So like four people go up, get a suggestion, and like everyone tells like a story that may be true or not based off of what that suggestion makes them think of. So like if you get like a suggestion like a hairnet or something, you could tell a story about like, oh, I remember one time where like my hair got cut off and I had to wear something basically. And then after you pull those suggestions, you do those stories and it connects. But like when it doesn't come off, it looks like really bad. But when it comes off, it's like it's genius. People are like, oh, like how did you guys do this? And then another form we do is La Ronde. Like we can do like a 35, 40 minute La Ronde, which is like you said like one like recently we had one that was like very like well received because like the storyline was it's like about being like a liminal space where like everyone on like a ship was getting pills that was making them like forget everything and just like stay in this space.
Cool. That sounds awesome. The first one
That
sounds like
sounds
a
really
Herald.
cool.
The first one sounds
Yeah,
like a Herald
it's
without
like
a
a
group
horror,
game.
but like without like the game in the middle.
Yeah, sounds cool. All right. And Cosmos, what
Yeah,
long forms are you guys doing?
we've done a little bit of everything. So we've done heralds, Laurents. We like to make up some of our own too. We have a list. We kind of treat long form kind of like short form, and we have way too many options. But there's three that we like to do more than most. So we do clouds. It's basically like say this apple reminds me of my grandma Smith, or this chair reminds me of the time I fell off. You just like this reminds me of this, and then the next person takes what you just said, that reminds them of this, and then just go from there, and then you just start building the story from there. And then during the scenes, this is for all the long forms. We have edits that we do, so it's like the swipe out, obviously, but then there's like the tap out where you can tap someone out, have them jump in. There's one I don't know if we made it. We probably didn't make this one up actually, but we just started using it where you tap someone, but you don't tap them out. You just like you turn them around, give them advice or say something, and then that goes back into the scene. And it's kind of like I don't know, like one of those like thought bubbles. You know, it's kind of like one of those
Yeah.
things where like you remember something. So like it's like I could be in a scene and my teammate could be like my son or something, and then someone could tap me on the shoulder and it'll be like his grandma being like, "Remember, treat your son nicely," and then I go back in the scene, and maybe in the scene I was yelling at my son, and then all of a sudden my character does like a 180 flip. You know, it's like that kind of thing. Then we have a bunch of other edits, but I don't want to get I have a long list that I can go into. But then the third one that we do, it's called Map. So I kind of mentioned it. Oh, I didn't even say two. I just have one, and actually the third one. This is the second one that we do. It's called Map. Basically, we just build a town, like say like, oh, the center right here. This is the town hall. This is the ruins of the town that we moved out of, or something like that. And then we just the whole town and just build scenes from there. We don't really have a time limit in between scenes, just whatever feels right, however the scene's going. And then the third one, what was it? I'm drawing a blank. But recently we've just taken one word suggestions because we saw that all the pros do it at like some of the shows. We're like, let's try that out. And it's been working really well. You have a lot more to work with if you just take one word. It's so like up to interpretation,
Yeah, that's great. Also, I think you invented the swinging door edit, which is that's like a real edit. It's where
really?
you physically turn the person around.
Yeah.
You do like a really quick scene with them. You physically turn them back. That's the swinging door.
Okay.
So that's really cool that you just came up with that. That's awesome. That's so cool. So this panel is here to really talk about, though, right, the differences between short form and long form, but also like how to transition your improvisers at your school from one to the other, right? So how do you at your schools transition players from doing short form to long form, or from long form to short form? People do that as well. It's a real thing. Who wants to go first and talk about how you transition from short form to long form? Ori?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like funny story is like I only joined improv like last year, but like I took to it like quickly because I was already a theater major, and I just so happened to be like good at it. But like, well, at least good enough based on like who we have. So how I transitioned from short form to long form was like, honestly, like you allow anyone into like a short form just like get their feet wet and like no, okay, like this is how this works, this is how you work with these members. But like with long forms, like there's a tendency for like people, even like our first I was too, where like people are like scared because like you explain it to them and like it becomes like this monster rather than like just improv, which at the end of the day, like literally is just improv. So I guess like the way you transition is I like with how our form works, every scene usually has like someone who like steers the story. So like how we do it is like when a new member comes in, if they're like scared, we just have them be like, okay, like you don't steer the story, but like just like join into like the stories that we're making. So like you start off by like just joining into these stories. Like you might be like a one scene character, like a 1 second character, even where it's just like, oh, this guy just needs to come in and give a gift and leave. And like you start off that way, and then people like give you feedback and like, oh, like you did this well, you did this well, and then eventually, like you just gain confidence and start like starting scenes themselves. Like we had like a member recently who was like, he was like one of the ones where everyone's like, oh, like we know like he can be good, but like he's like scared of scenes a bit because like he's scared of like being like he's scared of like being like laughed at, which is like because like we like occasionally like we have like Oreo cookies where we just like laugh at people who like do stuff like good or bad or basically like give them in like feedback. So like what we did was like we had him one scene like he started the scene with like one of our like elder members, and then after the first scene of the three, they just like said, okay, you take this story and like make this your own, because like we just want to see like how you work, and like it worked well because like he just had to swim, and so I think like just like giving people like the platform to like jump into it rather than like teach it or rather like over explain it rather than just doing. Because like at the end of the day, improv is an action thing rather than like a brain thing.
Right. Yeah, who else wants to let us know how you teach and transition? Macy, I saw your hand go first. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it definitely ties into like the comfort of your team members with each other. So I mean at auditions it's like always just games and whatever, because that's just you're not going to teach long form at auditions, but we usually like the first or second practice we just throw everyone in a herald, but we really like make a great effort to make sure everyone is feeling comfortable and like included, and we all, I mean, we're all like we've all become best friends over the years. It's all, I guess that's just the culture of like this specific team at our school. It's just that's how it is. Like everyone hangs out all the time and like whatever, we just like make an effort to become really close, so then people aren't, I guess, scared to jump into something. Because I feel like with me in the past, like something that's held me back is being scared of being laughed at, but I'm doing it with my friends, so it's like it's way easier when everyone's comfortable. So yeah, I guess, I mean, you really just got to not be scared of doing long form to do long form. You have to just do it. Like, I don't know. It's yeah, you got to just do it.
I like it. Yeah. Cool. Cosmos, anything you want to add?
Yeah, so our approach, especially we get the advantage of with our open world kind of format, there being so few rules. Our approach is throw people in the deep end, and let them do these open worlds with other people. Since our open worlds are going to have at least like six people in them, throw in the new people with four other people who are a bit more experienced, and do a scene, then do some critiques afterwards, and figure out what works. We throw people in the deep end so much at our auditions for our long form team. We make everyone do a 15-minute open world with us. We don't want it to be intimidating. We don't want it to be this harder thing that you have to do. Um, just try it out and we'll learn and you'll get a feel for it as you go.
Cosmos, anything you want to add?
That's a great idea, by the way. I feel like I should start doing that at auditions, have the long form that we do. But yeah, so a little bit of like what Macy and Cole do, like getting to know your teammates makes it really more comfortable. It's because we're also friends outside of it. Like we're like a little family. We even had a house together this last year. So just getting to know your teammates and then jumping into it with them, because then they become your best friends and you just have fun
Yeah.
up there instead of like it doesn't feel like work. It feels more like play. But like I was saying earlier, we do ours in the second semester. So kind of like what Ori was saying, it's like very intimidating. So what we do is we have the pros, those more experienced improvisers do a long form set just to show them what it looks like, and then we have them mix in with us. So like kind of group up and just kind of mix in a few of the newer people with a few of the more experienced ones, and then just have them try it out, and then give them notes after they do it. What went well, what didn't, how we can get better.
I love it. Great. So we talked about being laughed at and like that's one of the things we haven't really talked about is like the comedy of these. Do we feel that there is more pressure to be funny at the top of a short form set than a long form set? How where are you
Yeah.
looking for those laughs at, I guess, when you're doing both of these forms? Yeah, anybody have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think for short form, I feel like there's more pressure for short form because you're not only like, focused on the rules, you're also focused on being funny with less time. So you're looking for the big laughs like as quickly as they can come. But what we've been trying to do to kind of mitigate that is just let the scene build first, and then the laughs will come. Because if you try and go in for a big laugh right away, it's just not going to work. For long form, you get a little bit more time, so the pressure just doesn't really. There's a lot less just because you have more time to work with, and you can establish your character, establish your world, and then the laughs will just slowly go in, and it just makes it a lot less stressful than being in a short form game.
I like that. Don't be too funny at the start. You heard it here first. Don't be too funny when you start. But yeah, I think that's always like a great thing, right? You got to have that base reality. You got to know who these people are so we can actually play. Whereas if you just kind of start off with a big joke and a big laugh, and then everybody looks at each other and goes, well, what do we do now?
Yeah.
We've all been there, right? Cool. Anybody else have something they want to add?
Yeah. Oh,
You can
Go
go.
ahead, Ori.
okay. Yeah. Like we have like a saying that one of our members usually like always like reminds people of. It's called improvisational theater, not improvisational comedy. So it's like even though like we tend to be like people, especially with short form, like people tend to like go for laughs with short form. Like we always remind people that like if it doesn't make sense to like make a joke, like just do it like the thing that like progresses a scene, whether in short form or in long form, that progresses a scene more logically than just like a joke. Because especially like with short forms, like we are short forms, we wipe it like obviously like you wipe a lot, and like we tell people don't play for the wipe because like usually you wipe are like a biggest joke, but like once in a while, like someone might like make a joke that like that's like really funny and like we're just like nobody wipe because like want to see okay, you've made this joke now and like this scene has basically like the scene has died all it's all but died. Like we're like okay, but like no one is planning to wipe you now. So like what do you do next? It's like we plan for like so like we tend to like try to go for more of like don't make the joke will come to you because like we know exactly like what we all know each other and like most of us know each other at least like especially like people who like perform a lot like we know each other for like friends we have like every week we basically like get together and like watch stuff, learn stuff, talk to each other and stuff like that. So it's like we know we're all funny. Like people tell us we're funny. So it's like don't try to be funny because like you already are. Like you will make people laugh just by following your instincts and being logical. But like if you just like go out there and you're just like jumping around like hey like let me get people to like all crack their ribs, it might kill the scene. Like Kool-Aid, like we call it Kool-Aiding. I don't know if that's like a term in general. It's like someone is like trying so hard to make a joke that like they tank the scene, but like being the Kool-Aid man who like comes in and like breaks through loud. Yeah, it's
I
like
like
we
it.
try to like avoid like aiming for the comedy, even though we tend to do it at times too.
Like you guys tend to do more narrative kind of improv, like with story and stuff in it too, right?
Yes,
Yeah. So like going for jokes is really gonna derail any kind of
exactly,
story a lot of
exactly.
times.
Like
Or then you got to spend 5 minutes like justifying this weird joke that
yes,
happened when it's like, well, we really want to see these characters, but you came in as the Kool-Aid man, and we got to explain how that makes sense in this world. I love it.
yeah.
Macy, anything you want to add?
Um, yeah, I think with any improv team, like there's a huge like bit culture. I mean, like everyone's always in a bit, and I think that's a struggle for us, and I'm sure it is for other people. I mean, it's fun, but like we have a problem at shows sometimes where it's like bit, and then like you're at the end and there was no plot. So yeah, we've definitely been working on is finding when a bit works, and it's usually few and far between. Like you have to just yeah, I guess like know that you're funny and it'll work. And like especially if you have a good plot, it's easy or a good um setting and whatever. It's easy to play off of a world. It's easier to play off of a world you've created than just playing off of like just doing wordplay, which is my jam. So that sucks for me. But yeah.
Uh, I always think it's funny because like you could do like a 5 minute scene if you're doing a Herald, right? You could do like a 5 minute scene that's just all wordplay, but you have to be really good at it to
Yeah.
make that
Oh,
last for five and have that to be the funny thing that you can do for 5 scenes and then do it again as a second beat
Right. A
and
good
then
line.
find a way to incorporate that into a third beat. It can happen, but it's very hard. I had somebody on one of my teams, she could do fruit and vegetable based jokes for like hours.
oh, that's
Uh, so
incredible.
so
A
yeah,
good resume skill.
yeah, we had a scene that was just her doing that, and it was amazing. Um, but it takes a certain talent to be able to do that.
Yeah. Totally.
I love. Um, hmm. So we were talking about easing the transition for people, right? And it seems we kind of just it seems like a lot of us kind of like throw them in the deep end, just like get in there and start playing, and you'll figure it out. You'll find your footing. Do you have short form games that you use to specifically uh transfer people to like a long form idea? Yeah, Cole, what do you think?
Yeah, so if we don't throw somebody into the deep end, one of the most common ways we get people to try out long form is we play hand left, hand right, four corners, whatever you would call it, but for 15 minutes instead of your typical 5 minute one. And because we let this be this thing of okay, you have these characters, you're trying to develop a relationship between them. These are the building blocks of long form. So take this format that you already know and let's just stretch it out. We'll do a similar thing for like the game called House Party, where it's like the dating game, but you're hosting a house party instead. That lends itself well to just say, let's just make this longer, take these rules that you're already comfortable with, and just extend it and try to work in some of these more narrative elements to this. That can make the transition easier for a lot of people.
Great. That sounds like some perfect medium form right there. Cool. What else? Anybody else have some thoughts on that?
We have oh yeah.
Oh, I
Okay,
guess.
yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, I guess one of the things like we do is like in our dang wipes we may like have them, we just like won't wipe the scene, like we just keep the scene going, and like we might like be like jump forward X amount of time. So it's like you have to like already think about the fact that like time has progressed, your characters have progressed, like you might be in a different place, you might have a different objective, even though like you started the same way. Like let's say like you just met someone and like you were giving them a penny, and like we're like or jump forward like 2 days in time. And it's like, okay, like now you know this person for more than just like this few seconds. So it's like, how does your relationship change? How do your characters interact with each other now? Are you still in the same place? Like, are you just meeting this person every day? Or like, have you guys become friends? And like, thinking about those kind of things like lends itself to like, especially like the kind of forms we do, where it's like, you have to think about, okay, like I'm doing this scene and this scene and this scene, and these scenes have to connect. So it's like, just like those kind of things help with like thinking about it.
Great.
Yeah, we don't I don't know if we necessarily have anything that we do. It's kind of like towards the end of the fall semester, our games have gotten longer because we end up with a little bit longer games. So I guess we do that to kind of transition them. But when the spring semester starts, we have that's our festival season. I'm sure you guys like travel for like improv at all, like for other colleges, that kind of thing. So because in the spring, that's when we do our long form. That's also the same time we have these festivals. So that kind of helps them get more comfortable just because now they're not just doing it with us, but somewhere completely different with a completely different audience.
Yeah.
But now we've taken them completely out of their comfort zone. And then when they're back to our school, it feels like a piece of cake because now they've done it at a different school. They've seen what it's like somewhere else. And when they come back, they're always like, oh, this is awesome.
I like it. So instead of throwing them in the deep end, throw them in a different lake. Find a different lake.
Yeah, exactly.
Find an ocean, throw them in the ocean, and then bring it back to the pond.
Exactly.
That's great. Macy, anything you want to add for that?
Yeah, we just I think the biggest difference I guess between the two is that you definitely need really strong listening skills for long form. So we like to play into that. We do a bunch of games like the kind where you have to redo a scene or like do a scene and change it or shorten it or lengthen it a couple times because yeah, I guess that's what a big adjustment is between short form and long form.
I like it. Okay, great. We're running out of time. I got a couple more questions I wanted to cover. The first thing is, if you have nothing to share because you're the perfect improviser, that's totally fine. But have you ever kind of gotten in your head and made a mistake in either doing long form or short form where you're doing a short form scene and you in your head you're doing long form and that messes with things or vice
Oh my,
versa? Uh
yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like when I'm in like long form mode and we do a short form game, it messes me a little bit just because I'm thinking more of like, all right, let's play this slow. But then the scene gets a little long and we haven't hit like a beat where it should end. And I'm like, oh wait, we're in short form. Oh, and then it becomes a little scramble to kind of end the scene. And it gets a little messy, but we can sometimes like fix it. But it's really just the thought of how much time do I have left that gets in my head and messes with the scene.
that internal clock that you got. Yeah. Cool. You got
Yeah.
something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, so the thing that happens to me very often is from a little bit of a different perspective, but I'll spend the entire week going to these long form improv rehearsals. Then it'll come to our Friday improv jam that I'm leading and I'll call for, and we'll be doing like a pan left, pan right, and people will start doing it, and it's going great, it's going great. And I'm like, keep going, keep going, keep going. And then I'll look like somebody audience are like, Cole. I realize like, oh gosh, I've asked the caller let this go for like 15 minutes already for this short form improv jam. But I'm just like, oh, this is so beautiful what I see in the scene. No, keep on digging further and further. So I'll
Right.
mess up on that quite often.
Another time-based error. I like it. That's medium form right there. Going 15 minutes. Ori, Macy, or you guys improvisers, and you can't relate to this whatsoever.
I'm perfect, so.
No,
Great.
I-
No, we've been late to like a bunch of shows because we let our warm-ups run on too long. And stuff like that where you just like, it's just fun and you just get stuck in it, and yeah.
Or anything?
Mine is more like, so like in our team we have like people who are like specializing at different things, and like one of the things that like I am known for in team is like being like the guy who like thinks a lot about plots. So like that's why I am like very much pro long form versus short form. So like when we do a short form where it's like free form and like we're just doing scenes and wiping, like at times, especially at like a show, I'm trying to think of like, okay, like we got this suggestion, what can I do that's like going to be condensed? And like I'm like very bad at thinking of like things I'm like very bad at thinking of things condensed, or like thinking of things in terms of like, oh, like riffing. Like when I say riffing, I mean like thinking of like quick witted stuff. Like I'm very like more like I would say like long witted, if that's a real word, than like quick wit of like, okay, like this thing, do this thing, and that's done. So like at times I'm like just and I'm thinking of like, okay, they're doing a scene and like they need someone to just come on for like 3 seconds, and I'm thinking of like, like should I do this, or like how do I like extend this scene in like a way that's like, oh, that like extends it longer, but like we don't need it to go longer, so I just end up like just standing there, and like at times like that might be a thing where like a scene dies because like no one is thinking of going forward, and like I'm like, oh, maybe I should go, but I don't go. So it's more a thing of like a thing in my head, like that makes me prefer long form to short form just because of it.
Sorry.
Oh, you're
You're
good.
good.
You're good. You don't need to like run out of your building because there's a fire or anything.
No. Oh my God. Sorry.
It's all right. Great. So I don't know if everybody has the same issues, but sometimes you're trying to recruit more people to join your improv club, right? And I think all of us are prefer long form to short form from our conversation. I think that's been the consensus. But how do you entice new people to join your improv community? Are you enticing them with long form or short form? Are they joining for the long form and staying for the short form? What does that look like? Cole, you look like you had a big
Yeah.
opinion on this one.
So we specialize first time offenders, specialize in getting people to try out improv for the first time. And trying to convince somebody to do a 15-minute long form game when they've never done any kind of improvising before is super scary. So we always bring in people with short form, because no matter how bad it gets, no matter how embarrassed you are or how muddy the scene's going, it's over in 2 or 3 minutes. It's like having a small talk with somebody you've never met before. It's not bad because you can kind of get in out of it a little after about 2 to 3 minutes, but stick somebody in a room with a stranger for 15 minutes and say, "Oh, just go at it. Just do whatever." That's really intimidating. So I find it's a lot easier to get people to come for short form because it's a lot less intimidating.
Does everybody else feel the same way? Short form's less intimidating. I feel like
Yeah.
you're given like the game, like you're given the funny thing, speaking gibberish, and the audience will laugh because that's what you're supposed to do, right? Give us new choices and then say the new choice, and that's all you got to do, and the audience is going to laugh because it's either going to subvert or deliver on expectations, right? But yeah, does everybody else? How else do people entice people to join their group?
Uh,
Is it
I
through short form?
I think like in terms of like getting new members, I think from a perspective like wanting them to come to the club in the first place, like outside of like word of mouth, it's like I think when people come to our shows, I think we tend to do at shows at least we tend to do long form better than short form. So like people like watch the long forms and like they come to us after and are like, oh, like you guys are doing like this is so good, and they're like, oh, like I wish I could do that. Like basically like, well, like, oh yeah, you can come to the club and like join for a while, and then like you might get good enough, or like you will get good enough if you keep out there long enough and like come long enough that you'll be able to do this too. So like I guess we like entice people with like the promise of being able to do long form, but like we get their feet wet by doing short form. Cause like if you just like throw someone into a round on their first day, like we've had people who are like incredible like off the bat where they're like, oh, like they just come in and everyone's like we just got like a new like golden Joe member, But like most people like just tend to be like good at short form faster because if you come in, you can just like do something that's funny and everyone laughs and they're like, oh, and at the end of the day, everyone's like, oh yeah, that's my favorite moment. Like that makes you feel good and makes you want to come back and learn more.
I like it. Cosmos, anything you want out there?
Yeah, it's that's interesting. I've never never introduced them with long form, but what I do is kind of similar to what Cole does. Before our auditions, we have an open practice and then an open workshop. So it's free to anyone that wants to come in and do it with us. But we kind of just treat it like a regular practice, throw them into our warm ups, a couple of games, and then at the end, we tell them like some notes and things like that. And then for the workshop, that's more of like it's more based on giving you feedback and making you better if you do these kind of auditions. So like we try and make sure that they have at least like the rules in mind and just some games to play and that kind of thing. But yeah, long form, we don't really bring it up until like they get on the team because I guess we don't do it for a whole semester anyway. So I guess it's not on the forefront of our mind. But yeah, I kind of like what Laura was saying. I like the idea of doing a long form show, showing them how it's done, and then I don't know, maybe bringing them in with short. It's interesting.
Macy, anything on that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, all of our shows are pretty much long form, so that's what people get watching us. And so I think it's a little bit, I think it's really impressive to watch, and I think that's what makes people want to do it. I mean, everyone I've heard that's done improv has started by watching someone and thinking, "Oh, I could do that." And so I think for us, because that's what we do, long form, then that is what's bringing people in.
Cool. Well, we're almost out of time. So I'm just curious. So everybody here seems to have, like I said, like a preference for long form, right? Which we all love, which is all great. Is there anything else that as somebody's on their mind that they want to talk about, an opinion that they need to share about short form and long form? I like to argue that they're the same thing. But nobody ever wants to listen to me. The long form is just a bunch of short form games. That's all it is. That's all it is. So if you think about a Herald, right? It's just a bunch of short form games, and then you just play the game again in a second beat. But yeah, and it's all almost the same thing. It's all improv, baby. There it is.
I gotta agree with you. I mean, I think you put this stigma on long form improv sometimes that it's a lot harder than short form improv. But that's why I mean I like this kind of silly notion of, oh, it's just longer than 10 minutes. Um, and there's nothing else attached to that. You can take something and stretch your short form game, stretch it out. Maybe you call it medium form, but really it doesn't need to be this much more grand, complicated thing. You're using the same fundamental skills. You just have a lot more time to work with.
Yeah, we're imposing those short form rules on ourselves in these long form things, as opposed to letting a moderator or whoever else is MC tell us what to do. But yeah, anybody else have any other thoughts or questions about long form and short form that they want to
John,
talk
I
about?
don't think we'll get a better outro than that. I mean, it turns out that long form and short form are the same thing. We're imposing these rules on ourselves. It's kind of like the Matrix. It's kind of like the Matrix, except for improv. Everyone, thank you so much for participating in the 8th panel conversation for the College Improv Conference. I'm going to be opening up the breakout room for the panelists and for the moderator. And for everybody else, I know that you really like the soft piano music that I was playing before. I will play it again. And if you want to DM me, I'm happy to share the link for you. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for coming. And don't forget, there is another session later today at 6 p.m. and another session tomorrow at 4 p.m. You can check out the schedule on the Radical Agreement website. Cole, are you able to find the breakout room? You got it. All right.
Still recording. Gotta record this breakout room, Terry.